Mr. President, I'm very honored to follow my colleague from Hawaii in those eloquent and powerful remarks, and for her, the presiding officer, my colleague from New Mexico, who knows so much and much of it firsthand about this issue and has really been a leader in this body for myself and others, and I thank him for that leadership. My view of this issue concerning the tens of thousands of young children making the difficult and dangerous journey to the United States from lands where they face violence and oppression is shaped by my meeting with some of them in my home state of Connecticut. I had the opportunity to do so recently on a number of occasions, and it has deeply affected my own approach, because what I've seen in them really inspires me. It inspires me because I understand better the reasons that they have come here. And the reasons they've come here relate to the violence, the threat of torture, the oppression that they see in the lands they are leaving. And they are coming, many of them, here for family reunification. What struck me in speaking with these young children is that they are coming here to reunify with relatives, their moms and dads, their aunts and uncles. They have come here to be with members of their family, and of course, to seek education. They desperately want to go to school, and they want the opportunity simply for freedom that they see this country as epitomizing and embodying, the beacon of opportunity that drew so many of our forebears to this country, the lamp that is lit above the harbor of New York symbolically for all Americans, the ideals that this country embodies for the world. That's the reason that people come here, and why our relatives, our own families, came here one generation ago for me, perhaps more generations ago for others here. So what we face is, in fact, a humanitarian crisis. It is a refugee crisis of children seeking asylum and family reunification and escape from oppression and torture and death in intolerable conditions in their home countries. Gang warfare that is a result of drug trade pushed from Colombia to Central America to service better their customers here in the United States. Their markets are here. This country provides the demand that fuels the trade. Not only this country, of course, but all around the world. But these children are the innocent victims of the warfare, gang warfare, market warfare, that is fueled by a drug trade that they have nothing to do with inciting or spurring. They are truly innocent victims. The values that this country embodies, that drew them here and drew our ancestors, our forebears, to come here, are the values that we must now remain true to serving. And among them is the ideal of due process and fairness and justice. And to say simply that we will deport all of them en masse, ask no questions, put them on a bus, really is a disservice to those values and ideals that this nation embodies for the world, a source of our power in dealing with the world. Our power is not the result only of our air superiority, our great naval fleet, our brave warriors on the ground. It is truly the ideals that our military serves, and our military might serves to safeguard around the world. And speaking of security and safety and safeguarding our nation, our border is secure, more secure than ever before. Perhaps not perfectly secure, and more has to be done for border security, which immigration reform would help to accomplish. The President has utilized an unprecedented level of resources in terms of both boots on the ground and advanced technology. There's no evidence to indicate any breakdown in border security. What we have on our border is not a situation involving huge numbers of immigrants slipping into this country surreptitiously. They are coming here openly, surrendering themselves to authorities or being immediately apprehended by law enforcement. This situation is entirely consistent with a fully effective border security apparatus. If the current situation were caused by lax policies in the United States, we'd expect to see a large number of immigrant children only in this country. After all, the United States policies apply only to the United States' borders. But in fact, that's not what we see. There are children seeking asylum and refugee status in many other Western Hemisphere countries, including some of the poorest in the world, and a documented 712% increase in asylum seekers from El Salvador, Honduras, and Guatemala since 2009. We've seen no increase in illegal immigration from Mexico, which also would be happening if it were simply lax border security. Any way you look at this situation, the facts simply do not support the theory that America's border is in crisis. It is Central America that is in crisis. El Salvador, Guatemala, Honduras, that are the source of this humanitarian crisis. And so, rolling back the Trafficking Victims Protection Reauthorization Act will not solve a border problem, and it will not uphold the values and ideals of this nation. The protections of this law, in fact, are essential to ensuring that the United States of America does not send innocent children into situations where they would be harmed and killed. And so I would oppose a wholesale rollback of this law, and we have to make sure that we do what's right and get this situation right, because the stakes are so very high. No one in this chamber wants to be responsible for sending one child to her death because we failed to consider the complexities and provide the humanity that this situation demands. Not only would rolling back the Trafficking Victim Protection Act do harm, and we must first do no harm, but it was also hurt law enforcement. This act helps enforcement and our law enforcement authorities to gain crucial, actionable intelligence about trafficking organization. This law reflects a fact that I learned during my law enforcement career. One of the keys to putting criminals behind bars is working closely with victims. In fact, victims are really essential. Their cooperation is vital to making the law enforceable and making sure that it is enforced. The Trafficking Victims Protection Act encourages victims of trafficking to turn themselves in and cooperate to Border Patrol agents and provide U.S. law enforcement with the information they need. They are not interested in arresting children. They want to arrest the traffickers, the drug lords, the top of that chain. That is so very important for our colleagues to understand. The surge in drug trafficking and drug-related violence that has turned so many communities into war zones is driven by those gangs in Central America that are in turn driving also the flood of young children to this country. We have this crisis in common with them. It is a humanitarian crisis and a law enforcement challenge. Let us move toward immigration reform, which will help to address that crisis by increasing border security, by enabling millions of people now in the shadows to have a path to earned citizenship, to make sure that our values and ideals are upheld by the greatest nation in the history of the world. I want to thank all of my colleagues who've spoken today, and most especially to thank Senator Leahy and Senator Feinstein for their decades of committed work on this issue. I look forward to working with them, the presiding officer, the majority leader who has led this chamber and this nation so well on this issue,